G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel, I should say, because a lot of you probably haven't seen me before. I've been doing a lot of NFL content the off season. Started up my own channel. Purely did that for the fact that I'm going to do a lot of SuperCoach content for 2022. If you don't know who I am, my name's Zeno. Probably first know me from the podcast I've done with George for a couple of years now. Um, So about time, probably long overdue. I start my own channel and do some content, which just been a bit late to the party and doing. But it's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of fun. The pick is out, which is why I am here today to show you my first installment. V1, we're calling it, of 2000 because that's how it always works for all of us, especially the ones that start this early. Nothing's set in stone, but that's the way. That's the fun. That's the fun of it. Um, Everything else going on right now, obviously, I'm not sure all of you like myself play a bit of FPL, bit of NFL. NBA I don't touch because that's a mess. BBL's there. I'm trying it, but that is also just an absolute mess. The real super coach is AFL, let's be honest. And it's the real fantasy because it's just the best. It's the best sport for it. Um, it's a sport we all know and love. Best sport in the world, to be perfectly honest. So it's open. The pick is open, and then we're going to go just run through a few players in my team. It's not obviously set in stone, as nothing is in December. But just a few of my thoughts on some primos that I've probably picked. The rookies not so much because who knows. And we'll start with in the defence. So we got Jake Lloyd there. That D1 spot I think is just locked up with him. I don't see that changing round one. Famous last words, but yeah, for what we get from this guy every season, it's pretty much 22 games. I know as I say that it says 21 right there, but it was just knee soreness I think he missed with this year. Was back the next week. It was probably just a bit of a rest more than anything, but um, yeah, you know, Dawson leaving the club. Not that he directly affected him as much as he did the year prior, but it's just one less of a great kick in a team that's um, going to need someone to distribute the ball out of the back line. So um, yeah, Jake Lloyd, I don't see him moving from my team. He's averaged more than this before for what he's priced at. So yeah, it's just the safest pick. If not the safest pick in the game, probably top three at this stage. Aaron Hall, he's almost as safe as a pick as Lloyd. There's just always question marks over Aaron Hall because he is 30 odd now, or just pushing 30, or just over 30. But anyway, obviously injury has been a big part of his career. Playing midfield at Gold Coast, just couldn't quite get going. Obviously, everyone knows he had those 3 games in a row where he got best on ground, but he's found his role now. In defence at North, distributing off halfback. Was honestly really, really, really good at it. Took some risky kicks, which obviously, is not always going to come off. But for the most part, he was actually really good for them. Averaged, I think, 110 or whatever. It says he played 20 games last year. He missed round one. He came back. I think he got an injury in his first game back. And everyone's, here we go again. But then he found his role and just dominated. It's simple to say as far as fantasy and Supercoach goes for the rest of the year. So his price is technically unders for what he did produce full games average, for the season. So yeah, Aaron Hall should be a great pick. Obviously, we monitor his preseason and if he still has that same role. But yeah, for me, he's almost as safe as Lloyd. Then D3 is where it gets a little bit more, up for debate. There's obviously I've got Shorty here who was great, you know, great for us last year. Played every game. Obviously, he would have liked a little bit higher average, just under 100, but Bash is officially gone now. Asprey's gone. Not that he was much of an effect, but the main distributor is Shorty. It pretty much has been for even a year or two, but it's just more assurance there now. We have recruited a couple young defenders to the club, but Shorty should still be taking kickouts. He'll be the main guy. And there's still upside, I believe, in him, to average the 3 figures that he just missed last year. So um, obviously there's Ridley, there's Whitfield, who's not on my team. Probably people saying what the hell are you doing? He'll probably might find a way into my team eventually, but for now I've got Shorty there just to see. He's a little bit more expensive than Whitfield. See where the cash falls and what we can do. And then we've got some rookies. Wilmot, I think will most likely get a game early. Tom Brown, I don't know. I'm just paying up a bit there again to see what we can do. DeConning, I think, is probably more likely to get a game than most of these as a tall defender for Geelong. Then there's Sam Skinner and Charlie Dean, I think it is, at Collingwood. So who knows at this stage? That's just placeholders, obviously. Midfield, this is actually very interesting as far as who do you leave out. It's not who do you pick in the midfield, it's who aren't you picking. And there's already been 10 discussions a day in the Discord over this stuff. It's already doing my head in, but it's going to do all of our heads in trying to actually pick who we forego, really, because there really is, in my eyes, no wrong pick with McRae, Steele, Took, Clayton, Marcus Bontempelli. You can even argue Lyons, Tom Mitchell, Walsh, and probably even Rory Laird. But yeah, let's say the top 8. There is really no arguments as to who any of them being a bad pick. It's more who aren't you picking? Clayton Oliver, not in my team right here. Took Miller, went 125. You know, only missed a game due to suspension. Bont was pretty much the Brownlow medalist until about round 16. How do you fit all these guys in? Simply you can't. So I've gone a bit of value for guys I think are unders, and then obviously your two sort of mainstays in McRae and Steele. So McRae is pretty much, well, he is. He's been M1 for over the last 4 years. If you take the last 4 years, he's not, I think anyone's close to scoring as many points as he has. Very durable. Just there's always stupid doubts that come up about him playing on a wing or all this. You know, Jack McRae is M1 and it's not changing for me anytime soon. Obviously, can slightly change, but he's as safe as it gets in the midfield as Lloyd gets in the defence. Steele is probably where, Price pretty much where he's at. I don't see him averaging any better than this, but this man can average this every year. He scores in every possible way there is, kicks goals, tackles, contested ball. There's nothing really that he doesn't do. He just needs some help. That's all. How long can he keep doing this? It's like, as might be pretty relevant, but if anyone watches the NBA, Nikola Jokic, go for the Denver Nuggets. They're just guys that have carried teams for a couple of years now. They just need some help because I feel like it will catch up eventually. That he can't go out there every week, carry the team on his shoulders to most of the time losses. It's really honestly impressive that he does keep doing it. But yeah, he just needs a little bit of help, whether it's from just a young mid to just give him a chop out that he's not the only focus that the other team has to put on. But he is, in saying that, pretty much impossible to tag because he's not one of your runners or whatever. He's at you all game, and he can play off a tagger anyway. So he's to do it himself. So I think he knows how to cop one, and I don't think teams really even bother doing it. So anyway, there's sort of the two mainstays. Clary would be the other one, and if I was to pick Clary, would be over probably Steele. It's just hard. It's just hard. But anyway, Tom Mitchell's where it gets a little bit more of an interesting pick because obviously he was an absolute gun for so long for our sides. Broke his leg, had his Brownlow year, broke his leg, then came back, last year or season before, pretty slowly. And then he sort of got on absolute roll in the second half of last season and averaged over 120 for the last 10 weeks. So technically for what he can do, and his Brownlow year was 130s, he's unders. His price is unders for what he can do. So he's only 28, I think, and he's still going to be the main guy in a rebuilding team, mind you, with a lot of young mids that will be around him. It's still only him, Jaeger O'Meara, and probably Liam Shields. So they will give a lot of mids, young mids some time. Josh Ward, they just picked up in the draft. There's still other guys that they drafted last year who barely got to go, but they will, Sam Mitchell will feed into the sort of the rebuild now and blood a lot of those young kids. So he's just unders for what he can do. We know he can average 120 plus, and he's priced at 117. So right now he's in my team. Obviously, I'd probably prefer it to be like a Clary type, where I get the money from. Who knows? Maybe a short down to Whitfield, but yeah, at this stage, Titch is in my team. Sam Walsh is one I don't want to go without Sam. The kid is absolutely insane. absolutely insane. 30 Brownlow votes, and he's what, bloody third year. Like, he's crazy good. His upside is huge. We saw it last year or last season. A 190, a 160, a couple 140s. He just needs to get those 80s out of his game, which I think he had about 4 or 5 of. Did get tagged once pretty heavily, but as soon as he raises that floor to 100, he's a 120 plus average guy, no problems. He's clearly the number one in that team. Cripps is as close to washed as it gets, but that's another story. So Sam Walsh, I just don't see myself starting without. And Lockie Neal is the other one that is unbelievable value that pretty much most of us are going to have. I don't see how we don't, barring any preseason niggles. He's one that I did start last year and sort of put me on the back foot early on because he was 700k, and I had to trade him out early. But fully fit, he's done it for years. He's done it for 8 years, averaging 110, 115. Obviously had the absolutely explosion year in 2020 with the 130 average and Brownlow, but yeah, he's put it this way: he's probably not a 130 average player ever again, but he's not a 99 player average player ever again until at least a few more years. So meet somewhere in the middle. Average 110 plus for us, and 540 is an absolute steal. So yeah, we'll go with Neil and see how he gets on pre-season. Dacos, this spot is probably up for debate with Horn Francis, obviously the number one pick, and then we've got Finn McRae, who George has been just lulling over for about a couple of weeks, telling us all about him. But for me, Dacos is the standout of those, just for scoring, playing off halfback, as it's been said. We just don't really know where Horn Francis will be playing. If it's more forward, then doesn't interest me as much. But obviously, you could rework the team and figure out a way to get two of those sort of guys in. But at this stage, just Dacos for me is the number one of those three. I know there's also Charlie Constable, but yeah, for me it's Dacos at the top, and then we'll figure out the rest of the rookies there. I've got Johnson, who was highly touted pre-draft and slid to pick 20, pick 21. Clark, who was a mature ager that has been playing waffle for a bit. Sheldrick, the Swans targeted, even when they were really desperate for some defenders, they still picked him up. He's an inside mid. And then I've just got Stevens, who's been at Geelong for a couple of years, maybe gets a chance. And then Sonzi, who the Tigers are desperately need of a young mid and might get a chance early, who knows. The rucks. Finally, there's some decisions to make here because there has not been. For 4 years, it's been Gawn and Grundy, lock it in. You haven't even had to blink an eye. You look at that position every week. Oh, yeah, they both got 130 again. One of them was my captain. Sweet. But now, the emergence of Darcy, even Nick Nat had a great year. I'm not going to go near Nick Nat, but you can't probably begrudge anyone that does. It's just that he is getting on. Grundy had a down year by his standards. 115 average is still great, obviously. He had that neck injury, missed a game or two. He is probably unders for what he can produce. He's, been a 700k player in the past, of course, with Gawn. So he has every chance of getting back to that and fully fit. I think he presents a lot of value. Darcy's the more questionable one. With people will say he has injury problems. I probably can't deny that he doesn't. He missed round one last season because of a knee injury, but he came back and he played every game after that, and he averaged pretty much 118, almost 120. He obviously had concerns along the way. There was games where he was out for half a quarter, getting checked, but he'd still score 120 in those games. Like it's crazy the scoring power he has as a SuperCoach option, because I swear half the time I was looking, this man's on 100 at half times, like far out. I need to get this guy in, but can't. It's already too expensive. So he's got, he's a similar player to Grundy. Obviously they're different. They look a bit different. Shrek's got, I call him Shrek. He's got a bit more to him. Grundy's a bit leaner, but they're similar players in that they're pretty much just big midfielders. Get the ball around the ground. Darcy would often get 15 to 20 touches. Grundy gets probably a bit more than that, but they both do similar things. They take pack marks. Darcy even kicks a few goals, which is good. Parks down forward for a bit, which Grundy can do too. So they're similar players in that sense, similar ruckman. Gawn is just question marks over Jackson emerging. But it would, in saying all of that, it would not surprise me if Gawn was ruck one for the season. People might be crazy in thinking I'm saying that, but it's still Max Gawn. And while the Demons are hot and they want to cash in on the talent they have, Max Gawn, I know they got Jackson behind him, so they're probably not as worried. But Max Gawn is still Max Gawn. He's like a 4 or 5, what is he, 5-time All Australian ruckman. Like he's still the best ruckman the game's seen for 10 years since probably Dean Cox. So he still will get used majority in the ruck. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But at this stage, this is the way I'm going. And then you've already probably peeped the forward line. Dunks for me is the biggest lock in the forward line. Like if I was to go, obviously Lloyd, then it's McRae, then in the rucks it's probably Grundy, and then in the forward line it's probably Dunkley as the first four picked first picked in each line. He's priced at 102 average, guys. Like, come on, this guy can average 120 plus in his sleep playing midfield. If he plays down forward, that's when it gets a bit dicey. But he'll still get the mid time, just not as much. But come on, he was 130 average for the first 6 rounds last year until he popped the shoulder. It's simple for me. I don't see how he presents a lot of value for us in a line that is often question marks galore with every option there is. He's the one that I think is the most obvious. Which look is probably not saying much. Probably most of you agree, but if anyone's thinking of not starting him, I just think it's a very, very big risk to take. But anyway, at this stage, he's in my team. Torino, this is the guy with probably more question marks than most in this line because on paper it looks like, how do we not pick Torino? He plays midfield. He's easily going to average close to 100. But there is the question that he did play forward for the last sort of third of the year. They, whenever GWS are missing a forward or, whatever, they throw him down there as he's the one for whatever reason. He's the one that plays there. Whereas I think he's probably the most, he's probably not the most suited to a forward role, but he does play the pressure role well. I guess he's there for that reason, not more so he's kicking, which is not, is not flash. Sorry if you're watching it, Timmy. But playing midfield, which we'll get to hopefully see in the preseason, if he is, he's in my team. I don't see how he's not. Butters is one that is a bit more of a not dubious selection, but he hit the ground running like unbelievably last year. It was on 100 at half time in that Tigers game before he went down, and everyone was trying to scramble to get him in until that point. But the injury is a bit of a weird one where he didn't come back well from it. Maybe was it too early? I don't know, but people did bring him back in, and he sort of burnt them a bit, and he got sort of. I think he went back out he just wasn't fit. So that's obviously the main question with him. How does he look pre-season? Is he going to play more midfield? If that would just be a bonus if he does, because I think he already plays that half forward linking role, unbelievably well. So we'll just wait and see. Cogs, look, I was talking before about locks in each line. I was talking primos. For me, Cogs is almost the biggest lock in the game, provided he plays and is still in the lineup. But yeah, he's priced at 260k. I mean, it's stupid. It's if he's playing, he's probably playing midfield. But even if he's playing forward more, it doesn't matter. He's in our teams. He's sort of like Torino in that sometimes his disposal lets him down, or sorry, more often than not it does. But yeah, at the price, it's stupid not to have him. Then we just got Elijah Holland, who was highly touted a few years ago or a couple of years ago. He's kept his forward status, which is good. And he's one will be probably in the most percentage of teams, I would say. Then just a few more rookies. Motlop for Carlton, who's a small forward. Eli Smith, been there a couple of years for Brisbane, may get a look in eventually. And Sam Butler, another sort of small forward for Hawthorn. Oh no, he's more of a midfield, isn't he? Dan Butler's brother. But yeah, at this stage, that's the team. Look, one thing I was sort of talking about, maybe if we do Shorty to Whitfield and then do Titch to like Clary or something would be something we could look at. But yeah, at this stage, just getting the team out there, getting the video out there. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Let's try to get to 100. All right, come join the Discord as well. Link should be in the description, and you'll catch a few of us there talking SuperCoach nearly every day. So yeah, it's a good community to join, get in, and yeah, we'll welcome you. So follow me on Twitter, and yeah, we'll catch up with you guys next time. Probably get one video out before Christmas about a couple of players on each line, and then we'll do a podcast and have a break and head into January with some preseason content. So cheers, guys. Catch you soon.